So we move right on to the artificial intelligence session by Blaise Aboh.
My name is Blaise Aboh. I'm the executive director of our data science. At our data, we talk about data. We use data to solve. We explore data, how data can solve challenges, community challenges. We also look at how data can impact different industries. We've looked at how data can address issues of transparency and accountability in government. We've also looked at how data can solve perceived challenges in healthcare. We've also looked at how data can, help the anti-corruption agencies, ICPC, uh, CCB, EFCC, improve the ability to solve or to rein in, properly investigate cases, and of course, the ability for them and the judiciary to properly also ensure that those who are caught are held accountable. Um, Tolu, please signify if you can hear me. I hope that I'm not just talking to myself. Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah. So okay, I'll go on. So so for us, it's just about looking at challenges in the community, looking at problems where issues where we can add a little bit of data. And then so for us at the beginning, it was just all about talking about data, exploring data. I think after 6 years of doing that, we also started looking at how can automation come into place in terms of the challenges we are also trying to solve. So we looked at healthcare, we looked at governance, transparency, and accountability, the corruption agencies. We also looked at information, reforming government information, because of course for everyone here, most of the time we just think that government is not working. In parentheses, we say government is not working, but then of course nobody wakes up in the morning and goes to a government website to want to check out what government is doing or government projects. We all expect government or their social media handles to bring everything to. I mean, before now, we never used to have the inflow of government information coming to social media like that. Until they all started having PAs to new media or special assistants to new media because they also all started seeing the importance of um, of the social media. But before then, you have a lot of bunch of government or officials who don't understand how social media is, and then when you're telling them that they need to make sure that their information is taken to the people, is taken to where the people are, and they don't understand it. I remember a program I was facilitating in 2015, a government reform program where we're trying to reform government workers. They were all government information officers. We're trying to reform how they communicate policies, how they communicated data, how they communicated government policies and government activities. And then they do a poor job. They are so terrible at their job, of course. And then we were trying to do it. And I remember I think on the third day, we were teaching them data analysis, and we were also teaching them how to present their information using a few tools. And of course, I said, okay, you know what, can you all go back to your departments, individual agencies, and bring data tomorrow? And of course, I was talking to people's fathers and mothers. But of course, for me, I was just there to do a job and not recognize if anybody was anybody's father or anybody's mother. I mean, you work in an agency, you are an information officer or information communication officer, you should be able to have access to information in your department or agency or parastatal or ministry. But then you find out that most of them don't have access to this information. So, I mean, one of the conveners walked to me and said, please, you know what? You're going to go and get this information yourself because these people don't have it. And you can't expect people's fathers and mothers to go and start looking for information that's not there because they don't have it. All they have is paperwork. So I had to go back home, back to my hotel that day. And I spent the whole night going to all the ministry departments and all the agencies, all the websites looking for information that I would use to train them the next day because I was supposed to put them in groups. And then I found some, I didn't find some. And then I think the next day, I think days after the program, I came on Twitter and I had to rant to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, the National Bureau of Statistics handle. And I said, you guys, because then they had what we have right now on MBS is not what they had at the time. Then they had the PDF, just download PDF. So you can only, anything you look for, you just find PDF and you download the PDF. But then what we had was, so now what we have is PDF and then option of downloading a CSV file or an Excel file, which you can also use to have a core, to perform core data analysis or whatever you want to do. But then we didn't have it. So I had to run on Twitter. And I think weeks after that, they had to implement what I told them. Because I said, the way I see these things is it's simple. I go to a platform, I search for an information. Once it comes up and I click it, I should be able to see available formats. I should be able to see a CSV file of the information. I should be able to see a PDF file of the information, data that I'm looking for. I should be able to see an Excel file or JSON file or other forms of files that we developers or scientists can use to do different things, not just PDF or closed PDF. And they performed it. And then when you go to MBS right now, you marvel at the extent of Excel file that you see there. You know, they're all open and accessible to you. So, so we looked at how to reform government, quite a tough one. And of course, we looked at healthcare. I mean, currently what's happening in healthcare right now is quite crazy in Nigeria. But then these are things that you can't address overnight. You know, then we, in the last 3 years, we started looking at jobs because, I mean, I'm someone who likes to tell myself the truth. And the issues about trying to solve the issues about Nigeria, most of the time, it's like pouring water into a basket, you know. So you find out that the first few years of your organization, you're just pouring a lot of water. I mean, there are little changes here and there. But then we looked at how can we do something that we can physically say, you know what, these are changes, these are impacts that we're making, you know, and impacts can go a long way. And so we started looking at employability of individuals, of young people. How can we, okay, beyond transparency, accountability, healthcare, you know, data, how can we begin to empower people? How can we begin to change the understanding of everyone out there? And I think one of the things that made me start thinking about that was, so there was a time we wanted to recruit in our organization, and we had, the post was for I think it was for a client office or business development person. And so I think we had over 200 people sign up, email us with their resume. But then you see that when you start looking through, one of my colleagues was looking through it, most of these resumes, the title, they were not properly titled. I mean, not even, sorry, the emails were not properly titled. There was no content, you know, so you don't, I mean, when someone asks you to email a CV, you don't just say hi, then attach your CV. I mean, you probably just need to say, make a proper statement, you know, and properly title the email, but most people didn't do it, but that's on the side. Then we now started looking at people who applied, and I think about 60% of them didn't have what we wanted. They weren't even in the space of what we were looking for. They didn't have the skills. And so it had a lot, we had a lot of questions. So eventually we chose, I think, about 8 people to come interview. And I think in that 8, about 4 of them flat out said they couldn't finish it. They weren't going to finish the interview because they couldn't finish it. One of them walked in with a laptop. I think after 1 hour, we asked him, okay, can we see what you did? And he couldn't show us what we did. He started looking for the work, you know. I know there was a lady who walked in and said, after looking, I think 30 minutes into the interview, because of course we have to give you some problems to solve. And she was like, you know what? I can't do this. Can I be able to construct my interview and leave? And yeah, we said, okay, you can do that. So we ended up choosing one person, and not because we wanted the person. I mean, we wanted someone who didn't live very far off, who live probably near the office or something. I mean, somewhere isn't not too far. But then we had to go for one person who lived so far that he probably had to spend a lot of hours to come to the office every day. And so you see, for us, it didn't make sense. And then we started looking at how can we even begin to empower people. So beyond that, you know, we've also been empowering, working with media organizations, you know, in terms of newsrooms, you know, trying to, because for me, whenever people talk about artificial intelligence or data science, I always like to tell them, pick a focus. when you are able to pick a focus, you can be able to think. So when you think about the term of data science or the term AI, it's big. It's in different spaces. I mean, yeah. So maybe now I could share my screen. Host, please, can you permit me to share my screen at this time? Okay, so I'll be talking when you do that. Tolu, please, can you permit me to share my screen?
Yes, a minute, please.
Okay, yeah. So we've been working around with media professionals, trying to empower them, because that was our focus in the past 3 years. We have trained a lot of newsrooms. I work with a South African organization to train newsrooms. For us, it's all about looking at the newsrooms. Most of them are currently operating in a legacy form. Legacy meaning that the operations is still quite what it was 20 years ago is the same thing right now. What it was 30 years ago is probably the same thing right now. I mean, fine, they probably have been using social media, but everything else is just the same thing. And so, we reach out to them to try to, put some questions to them to show them what organizations, how news platforms are evolving, how they are making new changes, new company-wide changes, empowering the journalists. Because in the end, it's all about empowering yourself or your staff or, into the future and not just remaining where you were. So everything we've been doing with the media, we also say, we're also going to do it for other companies, also for young people. So I think late last year, we launched a platform, an academic platform where we started putting up a lot of courses that people can go and take. Can I share the screen now? Still not yet. Okay, so I'll keep talking. I want to talk. I'm giving you a little bit of overview of what we've been doing and our focus. So most of the time, it's core on journalism, core on media. So we just talk about AI. But I want to be able to share my screen. Okay, yes, I can share my screen now. Thank you very much. Okay.
Hi, Blaise. You can share now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just a minute. Slideshow from beginning. Oh yes. So late last year we launched. Around July last year we launched what we called the Future of Work classes, and because that was when we began to ask questions about young people, not just even young people, mid-career professionals. You're out of school and you're trying to look for how to get a job. What do you do? Or you're not yet in school, but you're asking yourself if school is good for you. Because I'm telling you that if I probably knew what I mean, there was no way I would have known what I knew now, before I went into university. But if I did, I probably may have made other choices, because I am someone. So why? Another thing the reason why I started doing this was because I saw how I was able to change into what I became today. So I finished. I studied engineering 5 years in school. Of course, I had an extra year. An extra year that I had in university was simply because a maths 102 second semester maths course that we had, they didn't show us the results until our 4th year. So you see how school ends up putting you in a box. We didn't see the results until our 4th year in university when we headed into 5th year. So I had no choice but to have an extra year to write that at 102, and of course pay an extra school fees. And I ended up coming out of university, and then of course studying metallurgical and materials engineering, a course that I probably didn't want. I wanted mechanical engineering, but then of course they find a way to split it and then push us into metallurgy. But then I spent 6 months, 7 months looking for work in that same space, and I couldn't find work. And then it being that I've always been a creative person, I've always been a poet, a writer, a painter. I did a lot of paintings back in the days. I did a lot of graphics. I mean, I've probably been doing graphics design as far back as 2001. And then let me just change my CV, my resume to graphics and see. So I changed my resume from the graphics design to from the engineering that I studied to graphics, and I put up some of my works there. And then of course, in less than under 3 months, I got a job, a consulting job indicated that, And then that work was what marked the beginning of my career success. So I started evolving from then on, from graphics design into uh, overall creative directing to publishing. Then I also moved into from publishing. I went into web development. I had to learn web development. That's the point in time I said, you know what? I asked myself, what was the future? What was the future talking about? And then it was when we're hearing about the big data, as far as 2011, 2012, we're hearing big data, and we didn't know what it was. And so for me, it was all about, okay, how can you learn this? Can you learn this? And then perhaps you can be in 4-5 years, you can be an expert. And so I woke up one morning and stopped everything I was doing. At the time, I was doing publishing and a bit of web design. And I stopped it. I had a business platform at the time where we published a lot of business stories and startup stories. And I just woke up one day after 2.5 years and I closed it up and started studying data science. And I mean, 6 years down the line, this is me here speaking to you about it and being an expert. So I kind of saw it, and I told myself this is where I wanted to be. That if the experts, if the forecasts were saying in X number of years, this is what the future looks like. This is who will be leading the economies, or these are the tools or technologies or verticals that will be needed most. I told myself I wanted to be there, and I didn't want stories. And somehow I got there, and we're still doing, and we still keep on trying to be to be competent in what we do. I mean, if I just sat back and say, you know what, let's still keep seeing if we could get this job in metallurgy. I don't know how that would have panned out, but I mean, I'm glad for the way everything turned out. So let's look at the insight on the future of work in Africa. So you see that that between 2000 and 2008, about 73 million jobs were created, right? And 22% of this were filled by youths. So you can see the source AFDB 2017. Now you can see that each year 10 to 12 million mostly educated people enter the workforce, but only 3 million jobs are created yearly. Now, the thing about young people is, so like I joined in when the last speaker was talking, and I kind of like a few things that I heard, because the thing is, a lot of young people walk into job spaces and they don't think about, they think about, I just want to just come and earn salary and I just go. And for the employer, they think about, what are you bringing to the table? What is this person bringing? What value are you bringing? What exceptional abilities do you have? You know, I told a friend of mine sometime last year, I said, every year you ask yourself a question, or every 6 months ask yourself a question. Have you learned something new? If you're working with someone, what have you learned that makes or should make your position different? Your position means where you stand in the company, where you sit in the company, how much you're earning. If you're earning 1 naira, for example, what have you learned in the past 6 months that when your boss or your supervisor says, you can say, oh, you know what, you're doing something good. And then they can even be afraid that you may want to leave with that skill. And they will want to give you more stakes in terms of salary or anything else, or benefits or bonuses to keep you. What have you learned? So these are questions I ask people, and I tell people to ask themselves. You know, so for me, every time, every 6 months, every 1 year, I even Google myself, I see what I've done, and I try to learn new things. And so these are the things. So a whole lot, lots of young people, they do not have jobs. Some of them, most of the time, it's probably because they don't have the skills. Most of the time, it's probably because they didn't learn the right things, and also because maybe they don't have the right, let me see, maybe they're not in the right circles. And of course, how can you be in the right circles? Because at your young age, most young people are probably still, what I call it, still thinking about maybe mostly having fun and so many things. And, you know, and then you probably won't be thinking about the next person who's going to mentor you, or who's going to give you a job, or where you're going to do like maybe free IT or something, even if they are not paying you. You know, so these are some of the things, and then these are things that are making a lot of young people stay at home without jobs. Yeah, there's no jobs, but then there are jobs. The question is, do you have the skill? Do you have the abilities to meet up the jobs that are available? And these are the questions. So you see, so let's look at unemployment rate in Nigeria. It increased by 23% in Q3 of 2018. But of course, look at 22%. Just a minute. Unemployment rate in Nigeria averaged 20% from 2006 to 2018, reaching an all-time high of 23%. 0.10%. Now let's look at AI. So we're gradually entering AI, and then of course, so you can see that globally, it's going to create 58 million jobs. Now the question every person who sees this should be asking themselves is, how can I fit into this space? If in 2-3 years AI is going to create this, how should I be one of those people to get this job? How can I get this job? These are the questions. And this was the same question I asked myself in 2011. If they say data science is the future, and the data is the new oil, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, how should I position myself to also be a data expert? That was a question I asked myself. And somehow, I just kept on working, and I'm not there yet, but I think I'm not where I was. So let's look at the market of the AI market. So you can see the revenue is valued at 3.5 billion, because almost every, just like data science, almost every industry can benefit with AI. Now you can see that the same revenue is predicted to reach at $26.4 billion by 2023, with an increase in the compound annual growth of approximately 40%. Now, when people ask me, talk about AI, and they ask me, okay, what jobs do you see? What jobs do you think will be in demand? And so you can see on my screen, everyone right now, you see a lot of young people who have gotten the memo, trying to become machine learning engineers, because in the end, that's what it is. So you see where the world started, talking about leading into AI was data science. So there was an awakening of data science technology. People were talking about it. And then all of a sudden, there's now an awakening also for AI. And so you see, it's something that it's more like it's a number that is being counted 1, 2, 3, 1 being perhaps data science, 2 being the AI. And so it's going somewhere because one begets the other. Now you see, the thing about AI is that AI cannot work without data. So you see where the data awakening started. So when the data awakening started, it was actually the AI awakening that was starting, that a lot of people didn't know. Now we'll talk about the next one, robotics engineering. In the end, this is also a key thing that people need to also look at. We have computer vision engineer. So when you talk about computer vision engineer, so you think about we are on social media where we see what I call it. We see young children in China going to school, and then of course when they get to school, they just look at the camera, and then the camera identifies them and marks their absence, their presence, and they can walk into school. Or we look at also in China as well, where they're using AI to they take pictures of people and then of course upload the database, and of course people are being monitored for their behaviors and their earning points and so on, and they have these machines that you can't actually commit a crime without the system finding you out. That is the strength of computer vision. Then you have data scientists. That's where we all fall in. Of course, under the data scientists and also under each of these ones, they all have. So under data scientists, you can have the one person who's a data collector, or the one who's a data analyst or data visualization expert, or something. For people like us, it's data analysis and visualization. So it has different breakouts. So we look at So we look at the clusters and the subject. So on the screen, so I'm going to start on the right part of it, which is the human AI interaction. So you can see designing human-centered systems, human-robot interaction, robotic manipulation, safe and interactive robots. Then the next one is we have information retrieval machines, speech processing, computational perception, computational photography, vision sensor. So when you talk about the information retrieval machines and search engines, that is Google. So you see, Google is an AI machine that a lot of people don't know. So most Android users, what you find out is that so there's this tab on your Android phone where you see Google. It's like the last tab to your left, and when you open it, it's like a blog where you see different contents, different news updates. And what you find there is that these news are things that you're comfortable with. You open them and you're like, oh, wow, this is something I want to read. And the reason why that is so is because Google has been using, the algorithm has been studying what you search for online, and they have been documenting, and then they're now using it to serve you information. Do you see now? And so that is the information retrieval and search engine. So they are searching, so even when you search, you find, but then they collect the information and then they also use it to what? Provide information that you want to see. Now, for the next one, we have the neural computation, the autonomous agents, cognitive robots, strategic AI, reasoning for AI, robot kinetics and dynamics. Let's see, then we have the deep reinforcement learning and control, applied machine learning for text mining, advanced analytics, data analysis. So machine learning for the text, machine learning for text mining, for example, it's so there are new technologies right now. I'll talk about more about it later on, where you have a huge data set, and the machine can actually just, you know what, go through those data sets, you know what, and pull out some summarized texts from the data, you know, insights that, I mean, the insights that non-technical users can relate with. Not everyone can be a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, but then when you want to create a product, imagine a product that can go into data or resources or archives and pull out information that people want to read about, and then serve it to people where they are. That's a product. That's a skill that you can learn. And so this is some of the things that, about AI. We'll now look at AI and others. So a bit of introduction, I think I've started introduction. So I talk about computer vision, confirmation bias, the act of intentionally seeking out results that consolidate pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. So I'll give you an example of this now. So I know of a machine learning engineer that signed up on TikTok. Was it TikTok? Yeah, it was TikTok. So he signed up on TikTok to try to understand how TikTok's algorithms are built. So he created a new account, and then he started following white people with beards. And so what happened was that the more he followed white people with beards, the more the algorithm began to also do what? Show him more white people with beards to follow. And so this is how, so you confirm that, so you already think, okay, this machine is already biased, right? It doesn't have an unbiased opinion. Then you try to, so most people also call this poking and prodding. They call it poking and prodding when you want to test how the machine behaves. Also, the same thing on LinkedIn, where you see that maybe when you search a movie or a video producer, for example, and then you find out the machine also starts recommending video producers to you as well. You know, so that is, so you know that, okay, it's biased to this. This is how the algorithm thinks, you know, and then you just want to test it to confirm. Now we have the data augmentation, supplementing data sets with more data to ensure that there is an abundance of information that the model can learn from. So this is when you, while building your model, you automate and say, you know what, you can pull in data from here, you can pull in data from here, and you give the machine access to a few data sources. So in a situation whereby you haven't given it data, it can go there to pull data to supplement and do what it needs to do. Also, this can also be used for misinformation, or let's call it fake news. So imagine when, for example, there is someone says the federal government of Nigeria has created 1 million jobs in 1 month, right? But perhaps there is a data set in in the NBS, National Bureau of Statistics website, that says otherwise, right? So if you build a machine learning that does this data augmentation, once it sees this, automatically it goes to the NBS website by itself to pull out the information from a credible source, and then comes back to confirm it or to repost. So that way it kind of automatically do what? Fact check misinformation or fake news. Then we have natural language processing, using computers to collate and analyze language. We also have, it's not here, we also have natural language generation, where the computer or the machine uses its own, its own ability to generate language and almost human communication, human text or summaries from data sets. That's natural language generation. Then we have supervised learning, unsupervised learning. Then of course I talk about machine bias. So machine bias, so think about this machine bias. I'll give you a simple example whereby, so when you want to go for a loan, you want to take a loan from a bank, you have to fill some forms and so many things. And of course, there are new fintech companies coming up right now. And then these fintech companies Most of them have their own algorithms or building their checks and balances that they use to know if they should give you the loan, right? And so sometimes you have to maybe drop your, what do you call it, your bank statement. So some of them use this machine, and so they use the machine. The machine is what decides if you should get the loan or not. So now imagine a case whereby, so this happened to someone, a writer of one of the books I read. The book is called Automating Equality. You can Google it. And so the writer talked about the husband being mugged on his way home from going to the grocery shop. And then the husband got so mugged that he needed about six surgeries to refix his face. And so up at the hospital, the initial emergency payments, the insurance paid the initial emergency payment. But then when they proceeded to surgery, and then the machine, the insurance couldn't pay them. Why? Because they said they didn't have an insurance payment, whereas they have paid, the insurance had paid for them before. So what happened was that a machine immediately flagged that they were trying to commit, what will I call it? Try to commit insurance fraud, because their payment, the amount they were due to pay was about $60,000. And then why did the machine flag that? The machine flagged that because they have just taken that their policy 2 months before the event, 2 months before the husband got mugged. Now, nobody could predict that if you insure your car today, that it will be stolen tomorrow or next tomorrow. Nobody will predict that if you get a health insurance, you'll probably get an accident the next week. Nobody can predict. I mean, you can't even, I mean, you don't want that to happen. But then a machine that sees that will say you are committing what you call it, you're trying to commit a fraud. So imagine the time it's going to take to resolve this particular machine problem. What if your loved one is in a critical condition? And these are the questions when we talk about machine bias and downstream unforeseen circumstances. So while we are talking about AI, we all love AI and everything else, we're also thinking about how do we prevent these unforeseen circumstances from happening. So that is, so even beyond being an AI developer or being an AI engineer, there's also a career in being an AI, what do you call it? People who look at responsible AI, how AI should be responsible. It's a whole career of its own. Okay, so we'll move to the next one. So these are some of the terms that we've talked about already. AI, which is a technique that allows computers to almost mimic human beings, human tasks, human behaviors. Then we have the ML, machine learning, which is an offshoot of statistical techniques that enables the machines to improve attacks with experience. It gets to learn, it improves on learning. And we also have the deep learning, which is made up of algorithms that permit the software to train itself to perform tasks. So now it just begins to train itself based on the pre-functions you've given it. Now, we look at AI in real sense, because most of the time when I talk about AI, I also talk about AI in real sense. And so for most of us who use Google Mail, Gmail, we see that most recently there is that autocomplete. So you're typing, you're trying to type a reply, and then once you say, okay, you click on reply, and then you say hello. Immediately the machine says, if the person's name is it's Tolu, it says hello. Immediately it shows you a gray Tolu there, and it just expects you to click on it and then approve that that's the name you want to use. And then maybe down the line, it starts to predict some things you want to say. So at a point in time, maybe towards the end of the message, you say looking. The moment it sees looking for, the machine automatically completes it, looking forward to hearing from you. And most of the time, that is what you want to say. So you just click on looking forward to hearing from you. So that way, it has reduced the time you wanted to use to type looking forward to hearing from you about this message or something. It has reduced, it's that AI that, so, and Google has a almost perfect AI that reads all the documents, all the conversations we have on our email, and it begins to try to predict what we want to say. Now let's look at Grammarly. For most of us who have used Grammarly, most content writers use Grammarly to try to make sure that they don't, their conversations or their emails or their content is on point and without errors. So Grammarly is such that once you're done writing the content or any article, you just copy and paste into it, and then everywhere there's an error, it begins to highlight the errors, and then it tells you the ones that wrong, and then shows you the correct one. And then you have your keypads. Most of us have keypads, the auto correct thing that we have, and then we don't know that it's actually a small, very weak AI, very weak one, that tries to also predict the things we want to see based on the things we've said. So imagine how many words that you've typed in your keypad. The AI, how many statements you've made, how many smirks you've made, how many laughters you've made. And so most of the time you find out that sometimes it predicts wrong, That's why when you see typos. But most of the time, it actually tells you the right thing. You want to say something, and then it completes it for you because that's how you talk. So that is also a very simple AI that most people don't know exists on our phones. Now we talk about why AI. So the thing about AI, it's helps us automate repetitive tasks. So task of having to type the same thing, looking forward to hearing from you in parentheses, it automates it for us. So almost every sentence that you're sending an email, the machine already knows that you probably made these segments already. You've made segments before because it has the data. And so it's telling you, hey, okay, yeah, this is what you want to say. I know this is what you want to say. Just click it. Because it's a repetitive task. It's something you've done before. Are you following now? So the same thing with let's look at let's say talking about AI in products, for example. Now you look at where, let's say, you let's say for example you get scammed or something, your bank, and then you quickly want to issue a notification to your bank. You probably have to try to start calling them, or you have to start sending start sending messages via Twitter. Or you have to go and rant. Last time that was why I had to rant. And in most cases, for every user, you just want that satisfaction that, hey, this thing has happened to me, and I have complained to the bank or to the organization, and they have noted my complaint and they have registered it. That is the satisfaction that we will get from it. And so when it takes so long to reach them, that is the problem. But now that is a repetitive task, because why? It's every day in Nigeria people get scammed. Every day in Nigeria people send money to the wrong accounts. You miss one number, you send money goes to somewhere else. Now these are repetitive problems. Because why? It is every day. It happens every day. You go to the ATM to withdraw money, and then it debits you but doesn't pay you. It's something that happens. So if it doesn't reverse itself, you see that it's something that is repetitive because it happens to a lot of people. And so imagine something that you can just text and say, okay, you know what? Okay, this happened to me. You give them details, and the machine documents it and sends you a message and says, hey, okay, I've documented this. Instead of you having to wait to call and then wait endlessly on the phone customer care line, or you go to Twitter to rant, or you send them DM and they don't reply. These are how AI can augment human tasks. Also, you look in terms of people buying online to help people deliver products, automating everything from question and answer. What do you want? What product do you want? How AI is helping people to automate the everyday tasks that they do. Okay. Now we look at the next one. Yes, why AI to create progressive learning algorithms. Now, the truth there is that human beings are constantly wanting to create something new, something amazing. For newsrooms, for example, I want to create something that they want to how you read, what you read, where you like to go on how long you spend on articles, what articles you spend more time on. See more of this content because the algorithm has learned your behavior, and they start to send you more of this content, because in the end, you only want to go to a platform to read what you want. And this is why it's good for learning algorithms. Now, also to analyze more data, more and deeper data. For non-technical users, so you have, because I've trained a lot of journalists, and so most of the challenges is data. Is being able to analyze data. They are just journalists. They're journalists, right? They are not analysts. Only a few of them are. Even the ones that are when you leverage a technology like AI, it takes you deeper. It pulls out information that that you probably won't have been able to pull out because you are not a technical user, and it makes your life so easy. That's the whole thing about AI. Now talk about achieving accuracy. Right now, all of us we all use Alexa, uh, we have Siri, we have what do you call it? We have Cortana from Microsoft, and then so most of these technologies are being built, and they want to build these technologies to see how they can behave like a human being, how they can think like a human being, how they can communicate like a human being. I think there was a time when I think it was Google. There's something they built that had an almost a human voice. I think one of their Google uh, voices. So one of the Google voices sounded like John Legends or something, and almost like a human being. And so we have the groups of the people who call themselves the group of they are more about responsible AI. They said that the AI doesn't need to sound like a human being, so they know when it's not a human being, right? That the machine needs to sound like a machine. So imagine having an AI that builds that you can just talk to, and then you say, okay, you know what? Can you book a hotel for me at the Southern Sun? And then immediately the AI by itself calls the Southern Sun and books the hotel with gets your hotel room, pays for you, or at least books it down, and then of course it calls. So you see, these things can be done, but then there's those people who say, you know what, we need to put a limit to what AI can do. So in terms of deep neural networks, it can do a lot of things. It can even in healthcare. There's a whole lot of healthcare breakthrough. And of course, being able to get the most out of your data. There's a whole lot of data flying around out there, and it's when thinking about it, when we started going into data science, we knew that we've done a lot of things in data, but of course, at some point in time, we're going to stop. We want to stop actually using our hands to run the analysis on Python or on Jupyter or on Excel. We probably want even the machine to do it by itself, and that's where we want to get to, not just doing it constantly by ourselves. And that's that part of it. Now let's look at AI for content production or content marketing. Now let's look at Google. I've talked about Google serving you contents from your phone, based on your preferences, based on your searches. Now let's look at Netflix. Right, on Netflix. So Netflix. So I remember when Netflix started off at the beginning. Netflix. So there's a book called Everybody Lies. It's about, I can't remember the writer, but just when you Google Everybody Lies, it's a book. Just Google Everybody Lies, a book, and then it talks about data, how data, how where you live, where you grow up, where you study makes you who you become tomorrow. The friends you have, the networks, extensive networks, the universities you go to, and then it talks about how people lie about their preferences, but then how machines are able to pull out your preferences by themselves and use that to create content for you. Now, you see, most people just watch Netflix, but then they don't know that Netflix, the videos on Netflix, the movies on Netflix are backed by AI decisions. It's AI that are behind the decisions they're making in the content they collect. So I know at the beginning when Netflix was starting off, Netflix put out a survey asking people, their new users, what they wanted. What kind of movie did they want? Some people said they loved comedy. Some said they loved romantic movies. Some said they loved action movies, and so on and so on. But then, when the data started coming out, when Netflix started rolling out the videos, the content, they found out that people lied about about what they wanted or what they like to watch. They found out that people who liked, what would I call it? People who loved, so the people who say, okay, you know what, I love comedy. But then you find out, oh wow, they actually like romantic movies instead. Or someone will say, oh, I love sci-fi. Oh, what would I call it? So can you still hear me? So can you still hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So you find out that, so they say they prefer A, but then they end up preferring B instead. The data say that they prefer B instead. And so you
Sorry,
see how
Blaise. Sorry, excuse me. Could you please check your chats? I just sent you a message.
on my phone. Okay, hold on. Is it a question?
No, you can just go ahead. It's not a question. You can just go ahead.
Okay. So so now let's look at AI for content. So the content on the screen says Tuesday was a great day for W. Roberts as the junior pitcher threw a perfect game to carry Virginia to a 2-0 victory over George Washington at Davenport Field. Now, that machine, this segment you're seeing here is written by a machine. So I don't know how many of you who have heard of Associated Press, AP, a news platform. So AP has been using an algorithm and AI to create some of its contents for over the past 12 years. And they've been doing a great job. I mean, that thing alone has increased the ability to create content by 200%. By 200%, yes. And so even when you go to Yahoo Sports and you see news like this after football games or after sports games, most of them have been generated by templates created by human beings, yes, but then the repetition of the generation of the news is by the AI. So this AI is now used by news people to create a lot of content to reduce the time they spend creating content and then increase the amount of content they create. Now let's look at a different type of AI for chatbots. So what you see here is something we built, I think a couple of years and a half ago, that talk about how to help people switch from one job to a different, or from one job to a different career, from one career to a different career. Say, for example, you studied maybe you studied botany, and then you wanted to switch to what you call it, to data science or programming or something else. So the machine automatically collects. So instead of having human beings to filter, having to use Google Forms and then collect information and you filter manually, the machine collects the information from you and then tells you what you need to learn to become where you need to go to. You want to learn data science, it tells you, okay, you know what, you need to get this skill, you need to get this skill. It lists all the skills you need to get, and then it tells you that to also get this job, you need to finish XS course or XYZ course in 2, 3, 4, 5 months. So that's what something we built, and we're still building it. So this is also an example of AI. So this is a custom news feeds algorithm. So it's just like when you look at your Twitter, tweaking what you see. Is there a concept algorithms and the decisions that they make? You start asking questions about, because in the end, if the algorithms are making decisions for you and showing you only what they feel you should see, what about the things that you should see but the machine is not showing you? So these are some of the things that algorithms do. So there's also the one for predictive intelligence where so you look at the United States election right now, where I think it was The Economist that they had used some AI to predict that Joe Biden is going to win Trump at the electoral college. So that's another example of using AI. And then of course there's the one I talk about, content creation. So I mentioned 2 examples here. We have BuzzSumo, we have Keyhole.co. Keyhole.co, we used it in 2014 for election trend analysis to ask questions about what people were saying, because it was from you finding out what people on social media is how you can find out what kind of content you can create for them. That's how we do a lot of things during elections in terms of serving people infographics about what they were talking about. So you can look at it, Keyhole.co, and then also BuzzSumo. Now, Okay, I'll talk about AI for content, which is a better customer experience, which is when I talk about the bank, the banking experience, customer care, and so on, or in terms of trying to buy something, buying a shoe, and then there's AI that helps you do all the work. Now, you all know Elon Musk, and said there's something he said about excessive automation. So he said excessive automation at Tesla was a mistake, to be precise. Humans are underrated. And so why I put this here is that, I mean, everybody's praising AI, and of course I love AI because it's part of things that we do, but then we also need to sometimes take a pause and think about it and see how can we hold AI responsible? Because in the end, AI cannot be, I mean, it's not magic. It's not the, what do we call it? It's not the, what I call it, it's not a magic one that can solve every problem. That's why I put this statement here. So now, people say AI and machines, AI will take the human jobs. In fact, while working with my community, my journalist community, my media community, the immediate concern is, will AI take their jobs? Will AI take their jobs? So now I'm telling them there's an AI that can help them create content, that can help AI that help them find news, help them source news. So it's like I'm telling them there's an AI that can do everything that they currently do right now. And I'm telling them no, that the need for an AI, or what we frame AI, is to augment their tasks, they augment their capabilities, so that from the small scale productions that they are currently doing, they can move from then also to a larger scale, right? You can even, while the AI is automating maybe maybe you have 10 things you're doing, the AI is automating 6 of the things you're doing, you can go on and focus on 4. You know, so it's not there to take away your job, but to augment. So this slide talks about AI and human alliance. So you see, there is the AI trainers, there's one for explainers, for sustainers, for amplifiers, for interactors, and for embodiers. Now, for the trainers, so humans train AI for performance. The truth there is that, so like one of the software used by Associated Press is called Wordsmith. You can Google it, Wordsmith. And what Wordsmith does is, when you take data sets from an Excel sheet and plug it into Wordsmith, it does not automatically write the story, right? It doesn't write the story. So the data has to be properly structured. And so this data is structured by who? The human being. It is the human being that structured the data, right? Now, you also have, so when the human being structures the data and uploads it to the Wordsmith software, what now happens is that the AI will now, because it's a human being, so the human being will now do what? Write the article, or sorry, train the AI using some of the functions in the software the way he writes the article. So when he's done maybe like 5 or 6 articles, the machine can now learn from there and then begin to pull similar data sources and then using the same writing technique of that writer. So in the end, it's the human being that has to train the AI to perform. And so whenever the human being wants to change the writing patterns, it introduces the AI to its to a new pattern, and then the AI takes it over from there. So that's the trainers. Now we have the explainers. So the thing there is that, like I told you about
Hello.
AI and policymaker,
It
what
seems you couldn't
AI
hear
is.
again. Hello. I think.
Sorry, what did you hear last?
Hello.
Hi, Fumi.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear
Fumi.
it again. I thought maybe you went off for a
What did
bit.
you hear last? Sorry. What did you hear last?
Hello.
Hello. What did you hear last?
Hello. Wow. Tolu, can you hear me though? Tolu,
Okay.
do you hear me?
I am at the human.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, yes.
Blaise, could you please check your phone? A message was sent to you.
Okay.
A text message was sent to you. Yeah.
Okay. I think we can hear him now. Or
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. I'm not near my phone, so I don't know. I can go on now. So I was talking about human machine
Where?
alliances.
Oh, okay.
Human machine alliances. How so? My community I work with, the journalists, the media practitioners, the newsrooms, they are thinking that the AI is going to take their jobs because I mean, if I'm telling them the AI, there's an AI coming that is going to help them find news. It's going to find news. It's going to publish news. It's going to help them understand what people want. Then I'm trying to tell them that AI is going to take their jobs. I'm saying no, it's not going to take your job. It's going to augment what you do. It's going to assist what you do. It's going to help you increase your whatever it is you currently do right now, from small scale to even a larger scale. Now, so and this is that's where I'm bringing the concept of the human machine alliances. Now, I'm saying that AI, the human activity is to lead, to improvise, to create, to judge. The machine transacts, iterates, predicts, and evolve. Now, human being cannot predict, may want to use an assumption to predict, but then the AI can actually look at a lot of data, extensive rows of data, and begin to even make better predictive assumptions. Sorry, did I jump? I went too far. Sorry. Okay, so I talk about the AI trainers, how the humans can train AI. So I talk about human beings like journalists who write content using AI. Automatically, it's the human being who will structure the data. It's not automatic. You have to structure it. You have to define the data you want, and then you structure it, and then you introduce it into the machine that is now going to do or learn from a template you create. So you're still going to create a template using certain functions, and then when you create a template, the machine will now learn from that template. So it doesn't. So in no way does the AI working for you or doing all these things take away what the capability of the person, the human being that is there. It's only there to do what? To augment. Now we have the human beings who explain AI, and so that's where we'll talk about people who are in the field of that have to go into the field of even talking about, okay, you may not be a programmer, you may not be an analyst, but then you may understand deeply how this AI works, and you may want to explain to policymakers, I mean, I've worked with a lot of AI, a lot of the developers or programmers that don't even understand AI. They know the code, they know all these things, but they don't understand how AI works. But then, as someone who can explain it, who understands the workings, that is a whole full-fledged job on its own. Now we have the sustainers. Now, the truth about it is that I've talked about unintended consequences or downstream unforeseen circumstances where you think you program an AI to do XX and then it does YY. There are people who need to sustain that momentum to ensure that the AI does what it needs to do. So when you put in X, and the output is Y. If it gives you A, then there's a problem. So someone needs to go there and check it. Now there's also the amplifiers, those who their job is to use the AI to do what? How would I call it? To ensure that it keeps doing what it needs to do. Are you following now? It keeps doing what it needs to do. So for example, now, so we have AIs. We have AIs that help us amplifying what you call it. They help us to amplify what we do. And so it's people that create it. So people create different types of AI. Those that augment what we do. And so for these people, their job is to keep creating AI that augments and then ensure that the AI actually augments or does what it needs to do. Then we have the interactors, those who enable the AI's personalities or the interaction between the human beings. So like earlier I talked about the voice enabled AI. So while building one of our bots, yeah, okay, yeah, so yeah, so getting there. So we have these interactors. Then I think this is the last one. So I'll just talk about just responsible AI as the last part of it. So in the end, we all talk about data science as the next big thing. We all talk about AI as the next big thing. But then we don't think about how do we hold AI responsible? How do we hold AI responsible? So in terms of when AI, there's a problem with an AI machine or AI software, who do we hold responsible? Is it the person, the company who creates it, or is it the machine itself? So in the end, it's these are questions. So even this part of it, of holding AI responsible, is also a career. So it could be an AI explainer, it could be an AI someone who tries to hold you responsible. It can even be a designer or an AI engineer. In the end, it's a whole lot of field that people can actually go into. So in summary, for me, I think that AI is the future. It's still coming. Whatever we're doing right now, we're still all joking. So I think for a lot of people to go into the space, there's a lot of opportunity that you can learn. A lot of tools out there that, but the way I think it is, I see it is, it doesn't matter how, you don't have to go out to build something wonderful. You don't have to go out there to say, you know what, okay, this is hard. No, find people who are building small products. Find people who are learning or know how to do small things, join them on those products, It could be that you just help them to search data or find data or write 1 or 2 lines of code. In the end, you're part of that product. In the end, being part of that team helps you. You can say, yes, this is what I've done. You've learned a whole lot of things in that process. So I don't know. So going forward, this is I just want to thank the guys who are here for the opportunity to do this. And of course, if you have any questions, please send them over to them, and then I will respond in time. So thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Blaise.
Thank you so much, Blaise. Thank you. We really, really appreciate it. You had a display that had your contact information. Can you just leave it up very quickly, just in case anybody wants to? I think I saw that.
Yeah.